we heard about the Tefillot called Shacharit, Mincha, Musaf. Those three Tefillot are fixed in our lives, and of course the reference is to Shmona Esrei. Tefillah equals Shmona Esrei. Shachris, we say Shmona Esrei. Mincha, we say Shmona Esrei. Musaf, we say Shmona Esrei. But we all know that there's another Tefillah that we say every day, and that's the Tefillah called Arvit, the Tefillah that we say at night. Well, where did that come from? Who determined that there should be Arvit? The Rambam continues in Halacha Vav, and he says the following. He says, Chachamim further determined that every person should daven once at night. After all, the Eivarei Tamid Shel Bein HaAbayim, it was the pieces of the sacrifice would be continue to be burnt up all the night, which meant that the nighttime became also a time for tefillah, independent of the afternoon. The afternoon was, after all, the time that the sacrifice was given, but nighttime was the time that the sacrifice was still being burnt on the Mizbeach. But since there's an obvious connection between the sacrifice of the afternoon and it's being consumed on Mizbeach at night, even though these happen on two different days, Mincha, after all, being yesterday and Ma'ariv being today, he says, the Rambam says, this Tefilat Arvit, is not obligatory in the manner that Shacharit and Mincha are obligatory. Right? And he says, nevertheless, this is a wonderful example. The Jews did not have any obligation to daven this third Shmona Esrei during the day. Nevertheless, Kol Yisrael, all the Jewish people, B'kol Mekomot Moshvoteim, in all the places that they find themselves, agreed Litpalel Arvit. They all agreed that they would daven a third Shmona Esrei during the day. V'kibuluha aleihem ketfilat chova, which means that their attitude to this third prayer, the prayer of Arvit, was that they had to say it every day, and in fact that it was obligatory. This means that for us, who inherited the halacha from our fathers and grandfathers, all of their ancestors, are obliged to daven this tefillah called Arvit. It's true that when the Chachamim established the times of tefillah, Arvit was optional. It was an optional tefillah. However, in the course of time, the Jewish people determined that they wanted to turn this into an obligatory prayer. Now remember, the Jewish people did not establish the prayer called Arvit. That was established surely by the Chachamim. They're the ones who said there should be a third prayer offered each day called Arvit. However, they did not oblige us to say that prayer. There were some who did, and I imagine many who didn't. Eventually, the people said, this is a worthy way to live. Let's do the third prayer of the day. And they accepted upon themselves the tefillah that we call Arvit. Having accepted the Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, that minhag, that custom, devolves upon each and every one of us. And today, at least for the men, we'll see the difference between the men and the women in the next Sheyurim, at least for the men, the obligation to say Arvit today is as strong as the obligation to say Shacharit and Mincha. While it's true that formally, according to the Rambam, Shacharit and Mincha are kind of a Doraita obligation. According to the Ramban, Shacharit and Mincha are a Drabanan obligation. And Arvit is only a minhag. It's something we accepted upon ourselves. We weren't directed to do it. Nevertheless, l'chatchila, a priori, there's no difference. You have to daven Shacharit, you have to daven Mincha, and surely you also have to daven Arvit.